until noon. So we still have a few more hours having to deal with those storms there. They've had an impact on airport travels, ground delay around Chicago O'Hare. Some of those delays approaching right around 45 minutes.
Oh, boy,
so,
yeah. Your approach into Chicago, you have a lot of options. You got to go up and around. So at the very least, it's going to add some flying time on here. And then we jump down south where, we don't have a lot of activity here yet in Oklahoma or Arkansas, a couple of showers. But this is a spot we're monitoring for severe weather, especially later today.
Yeah, so don't be caught off guard knowing that things are quiet now. Not expected to be that case for the rest of the day. In fact, you can see the available energy that is in place right now where we don't have the thunderstorms. So when they start to fire up later, plenty of energy to take advantage of.
It's interesting. There's a lot more here to work with compared to what we have with the ongoing storms right now. So just goes to show you everything that the atmosphere is kind of throwing at this today here. There's definitely a lot to look at, and Greg Postel will talk more about the forecast there coming up. But we also have a snowstorm ongoing. Look at the snow coming down in Colorado.
It is there, and it's staying there. We don't see a whole lot of motion and everything kind of moving and clearing out. That 25 corridor is filled with snow. Right now, Denver 31 reporting some of that heavier snow. Colorado Springs as well. That's a zone where the snow is adding up with those numbers in the lower 30s.
Yeah, I mean, that's key, that temperature. Winter Storm Kadir forcing the closure of public schools and offices in Denver today.
Meteorologist Chris Barone is live in the Denver Metro in Lone Tree, Colorado. Chris, that snow, it's been coming down here since the late evening hours here through this morning. Of course, the roads, you mentioned earlier, they kind of slickened up pretty quickly despite the fact that we had a fairly warm yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday we were in the low to mid 50s. Is even more than that. That will put us well over the 2-foot mark. This is going to be a big storm for the entire Front Range and especially the foothills and the mountains.
Yeah, oh, indeed. And I suppose, Chris, this is the lucky day or unlucky day, depending on how you're looking at it. But 2021, it was March 13th, 14th. 2019, it was March 13th, 14th. Today is March 14th. That's how it goes in Denver, I suppose.
It's the sweet spot. And they did say, St. Patrick's Day this weekend, the festivities in Denver are going to happen snow or shine. So regardless, even though the weather does improve later this weekend, there'll still be plenty of snow on the ground, and there's going to be a lot of partiers and celebrations taking place here in Denver.
Oh, yes, they do a big party for St. Patrick's Day here. Chris, thank you for those updates. We'll be checking back in with you. We're also following thunderstorms, and there have been a number of them this morning that we've been looking at that risk of severe weather for here. But, Greg, as we look towards the afternoon, our eyes go to that area in Oklahoma and Arkansas where there's so much instability here. What could prevent storms actually from bubbling up there?
Not much.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the instability. There's not really going to be a cap. We have a front moving through. It's going to erupt with thunderstorms. So
they will fire up. Exactly where is the tough thing.
Yeah, and there may be some areas farther to the north along what's kind of like a developing warm front across the Midwest. Thank you very much. That brings us to yesterday.
Orcon for today here. We could have numerous tornadoes. Some of them could be strong, EF2 or greater, in that zone, Oklahoma, Arkansas. Let's go to Indianapolis where, we're going to get some showers here probably about lunchtime. But as we look at the risk of severe weather, and Greg just showed us, that risk goes up as we get into the later hours today, into the evening. So let's plan for that. It makes sense to be ready for the severe weather considering all the ingredients that are coming together. I'm going to look at your forecast for you here in Indianapolis as we see those storms move in and, again, increasing that threat for possible severe weather once we get into the later hours today. There is a Torcon out there. You can see all the way up through Indianapolis. We've got a 3 in St. Louis, and that's not for the storms necessarily that we had this morning, even though I know you had some tornado warnings. The sirens are going off. Your phone was lighting up. It's for the new thunderstorms that we are going to be watching that will be developing later today. So Indianapolis, we go to you. And again, about lunchtime, there'll be some storms that come through. This is the line that we're tracking right now that's out there moving through Illinois. This will head our way. It may be severe, but I think what we get tonight, that was 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock. These thunderstorms here are the ones that will have a bigger severe potential once we get into that time frame, and some of them may continue as we get into the overnight hours. That was 2 a.m. and there's still activity in the area. Have a way to get warnings. Make sure warnings would wake you up. St. Louis, we're getting rid of the showers that we've been dealing with this morning and the thunderstorms here. Brief break, and then we get back into more activity later afternoon hours into the evening. Dinner hour could be rough out there. The commute home could be rough with thunderstorms that may be severe, and we'll be watching that through bedtime, trying to get the kids to bed with thunderstorms ongoing. I know it's tough. tough. That's going to be a challenge tonight. One last stop, Fort Smith, but we're under a 5 on the Torcon 4 today here. You also, by this evening, need to be ready for that possibility of severe weather. Alex.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Meanwhile,
last week, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service finished its yearly count of endangered Mexican gray wolves. There are now at least 257 of these wolves roaming New Mexico and Arizona, an area where they once were driven to the brink of extinction. But as the wolves' numbers rise, locals now have to learn how to live with them. Hail. We also had some big hail for folks out there near Alma in Kansas, where we had softball size hail. Some big reports around Grandview Plaza in Kansas, 3-inch size hail. So we're talking, between tennis ball and baseball size hail. Liberty, Missouri coming in with that golf ball size hail. All of this would do significant damage, and hailstorms can be so expensive. Think about all the power involved in creating this hail, the updrafts that go into the thunderstorm. And when you get up to softball size hail like we had in Alma, Kansas, 100-mile-per-hour updraft needed to sustain that. And plus the hail itself then falling out of the cloud. Think about the gravity involved with that. We've got some significant downward motion of this hail coming down, perhaps blasting at anywhere from 40 to 70 miles per hour, maybe even up to 100 miles per hour down out of that cloud here. Those hail reports here were significant. Today we may see that same kind of situation. Oklahoma into Arkansas. We go all the way up into Illinois, Indiana. Significant hail possible as well. The cold air loft going to be a feature that we watch to help dry. Winter storm Kadir doesn't seem to be in any kind of hurry as it continues to dump snow across the west.
Yeah, it's been coming down since essentially last evening. You see the pictures here behind us. Yeah, it was not looking like this yesterday evening as we saw the precipitation start. Bare roads now filled with that snow.
Yeah, it was in the 50s yesterday in the Denver area. So now Winter Storm Kadir is dropping the snow, forcing a lot of closures out there, even of a major interstate, I-70, shut down because of the snowfall.
Well, our meteorologist Chris Bruin is live just outside the Mile High City this morning. And Chris, you've been out there. I think, there's sort of a couple of saving graces here when it comes to travels is the winds haven't been too crazy, and the snow, at least the consistency has been kind of that heavy, wet snow.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. That's why we're not roads that go up into the higher elevations. But now I-25 is still open for now, although it wouldn't surprise me if we were to have closures later today there.
Yeah, Chris, you're out of breath, and I just have to say, look, you probably hiked to 14er yesterday. I'm sure you did. But it's hard in the snow. Snow is a lot of work, and I think it speaks to just how thick and heavy it is. This is what folks are trying to drive through. It's why they're getting stuck. So here, it's a great illustration of what folks are going through today. Thank you for that. Well, let's go over right now to Greg Postel with more on what's going on with the storms. And Greg, we've got severe risk.
Stranded because the roads are closed, and we've seen a lot of that last night in this morning because once you get stuck, you can't turn around. There's no hotels in the foothills available because they're completely sold out. So now you have people riding this out in their car or at a convenience store or gas station, whatever they can find open, because being in these elements can be dangerous.
Yeah. Chris, great points. And you talk about people moving there. This is likely going to be the biggest storm that they've seen in 3 years, since 2021. So, even for folks who've been there a few years, they haven't seen this kind of snow at once. You think
the weather's cooperating for us today to be able to do more cleaning up. Temperatures for us at this hour, 40s and 50s. I've got some sunshine out there, so actually not too bad of a start to things here on this Thursday.
Yeah. Cherry blossoms, we're now at category 4 of 6.
Oh, wow.
We're level 4 of 6.
That was quick.
So, yeah, that was quick. Peduncle elongation. We've got 2 more levels to go. Will this 78 degrees push them out
We'll
today?
peak tomorrow with that kind of weather. I'm exaggerating, but yeah, very warm day there. Meanwhile, we do have some wet weather coming into the eastern lakes. Buffalo's a spot, maybe around Rochester a little bit later today. Heads up for some rain.
Yes, here comes the rain into Pittsburgh on Friday. Rain showers do move back into much of the Northeast. Albany, the Capital District, Boston, some showers. Then a break. Then more rain.
Yeah, exactly. Sunday.
I like how you did that.
It comes back, and some of the higher elevations create a bit of the wintry weather as well as we progress through the weekend, because we are going to see some colder air begin to nudge on in.
Looks a little bit like what happened last time, though not as much. So maybe not, the level of snow we just saw, but this is March. Lone Tree, Colorado, watching that snow come down. Chris, it looks like time to time the visibility gets reduced here. The wind seems to pick up. Have you seen any changes in kind of the type of snow you're getting, or maybe the snow to liquid ratios? How is that changing?
Yeah, so right now they're a little 40-inch snowfall totals. Now here in Denver, we have numerous reports in town, in the city, of over 8 inches. And then, of course, on the south side and west side of the metro area where you get that peak upslope. You go up in elevation a little bit, you get more enhancement, more lift, squeezing out more moisture. We're seeing anywhere from 15 to almost 20 inches of snow, and we may easily get another foot to 2 feet before all is said and done, Jen.
Yeah, Chris, the system isn't going anywhere for a while. We're watching it on satellite and on radar, and it's just sitting there. So you may be there for a little bit there. Thanks for sharing that view there from Denver and just south from Lone Pine. We're going to talk to you coming up a little bit more, but we're here with you through the mid-morning hours.
Plenty to talk about here for us as we get closer to the afternoon, from the snow clobbering the Rocky Mountains to some of those threatening storms pushing across the Midwest.
All right, so we take a look at what's going on out here with really two different types of weather. Related somewhat, but we've got thunderstorms in the east, and then we've got snow that is flying in the west.
Yeah, we'll tackle that snow in a bit, but certainly right now the bigger storms are rolling on through sections of Indiana and into Illinois. You can see the line of storms that extends from now southern Michigan through Indiana and into Illinois, a line that is producing a lot of lightning, and along that line some occasional severe thunderstorm warnings, and every now and then we get a tornado warning firing up too.
Right, and there's not as many warnings as we had maybe an hour or two ago here, but it's still very active, and there's honestly the lightning here, I haven't seen that come down in intensity, and that just tells us the storms are staying healthy.
So there we are. There's a closer view we get with the lightning, so you can actually see the radar showing you the storms that are moving on through, and a couple of these warnings that are in place right now. We head down towards the 70 corridor, right along and just to the south here for you, essentially right along the state line with Illinois and Indiana around Darwin. You're under a severe thunderstorm warning there until 11:15. We're dealing with storms producing some big time wind, there's even some hail with that storm as well.
Looking just south of Darwin, right in here. See that reflectivity here, bright amounts there. I bet you there's some higher amounts of vertical liquid. Yeah, half dollar size hail coming out of that.
That'll cause some problems there. So yeah, get the cars into the carports, the garages. You don't want to be walking outside in that, because that's would hurt. Then we move north, continuing to follow that line here into the western portions of Indiana, Fountain, Vermilion, Warren counties until 11:15. You're under severe thunderstorm warning.
Just east of Highland, again, just looking at the radar, where you see these little bright spots here. At the very least, some heavy rainfall and maybe some big hail coming out as well.
Absolutely. So yeah, those are some of the risks. Let's time it out here, kind of following that east edge of the storms, pushing east, and you'll see some of these cities that may be involved with this here as we head through the next bit. Coal Creek, 11:04, Ladoga as we get to about 11:20, and Frankfort as we approach 11:30 there. Now, some of those cities aren't in the warning now, but you get a sense of the timing as this holds together and pushes off towards the east.
And the modeling was showing us these storms coming into Indianapolis about noon, and you're kind of right on target for that. So while they may not be severe, at the very least, you're going to get a blast of heavy rain and lightning coming through. So plan accordingly. Maybe go to lunch a little bit later today.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, St. Louis, you're still under severe thunderstorm watch, as you are in Indianapolis.
Yeah, in fact, that watch there, Indy, just issued here for you across central Indiana until 4 o'clock. And again, that's for that line that will be pushing through over the next couple of hours. Big heads up there with some big storms on the horizon.
And later today, we're really concerned about this area in Oklahoma and Arkansas, Missouri. This is a zone that just has a lot of instability building today, likely that we will see severe weather. I mean, the background colors show us the instability, and you see how we've got all these really deep reds right here, and it's building back towards places like St. Louis.
Exactly. So yeah, we've got those storms that made it way through, kind of clear things out a bit, but we're kind of recovering the atmosphere a bit now. And so that may set the stage. Yet again, we'll have to watch out there in southern portions of Missouri. And then, of course, we get to the wintry side of things, and that snow has been adding up there in parts of Colorado, still coming down. Yeah,
just looking at the radar, you can see nothing's really going anywhere. If anything, it seems like it's kind of moving back a little bit, right up and down I-25 here, and parts of I-70 as well. That snow is coming down. The temperatures are holding below freezing.
Hey, you look at the radar and you say, oh, well, we get to a clear spot there as we move through. And no, the mountains are just blocking the radar. So, yes, it is snowing plentiful in those areas.
Winter storm Kadir forcing the closure of public schools and offices in Denver today.
Well, meteorologist Chris Bruin has an update on the falling snow and the travel conditions.
way to stay safe is just stay off the roads there in the Denver metro and into the Rockies. Now, we also have a severe side that we're watching with this storms that have been ongoing this morning, Greg. Here, we're kind of getting into a lull. Do you think there'll be a long break before we get into the next round?
Not much. I mean, you guys were talking about
mornings, actually.
It's almost like there's not really a lull.
Right.
It's kind of a continuation from last night, but I think more severe weather is coming later on this afternoon and evening. Jenny, you're right about that. We're going to go.
And, some of the boundaries that they put down, that can all be a factor. So the stormy weather has already been sounding the alarm in places like St. Louis this morning, and you are under a severe thunderstorm watch through most of the morning. Then we get to the next round that comes in. And so that's what I want to talk about here in some timing for you, where we're going to see the new thunderstorms develop. Greg kind of outlined that. Let's go city specific. We've got a 5 on the Torcon down here into parts of Arkansas and into Oklahoma, with a 3 extending all the way up into Indiana and even into Ohio. So starting first in St. Louis, where we did have those thunderstorms early this morning. There were tornado warnings. You heard the sirens. Your alerts went off on your phone. Now we're in a bit of a break, but we'll see new thunderstorms come back this afternoon and then through the evening. And this is really when we could see that severe weather. I mean, this is the 5 o'clock forecast radar with that chance of some supercells, the risks with hail, damaging winds, and there is that tornado risk as well. So be ready for more warnings today. Know where you would go here. Make sure you have a plan to have safety. Let's go down to Fort Smith, where we are under a 5, so a heightened risk here when it comes to that tornado risk. Let's look at timing, and we're going to be watching through the afternoon hours. This is about 5 or 6 o'clock here, and it might take through the afternoon to really get that instability to reach its peak, and then we do see multiple chances of storms coming through. Again, multiple chances of severe weather. It's not necessarily just the first line that comes through and then maybe you get residual rain. There may be additional storms that come through and we get that chance of that risk of severe weather. Little Rock, you are also under a 5. South of there, you jump down to a 3. But let's go to Little Rock and show you what we can expect in terms of timing. Right around the dinner hour and just after, thunderstorms come into the area. We'll be watching for that risk of severe weather. Large hail is a possibility. Yesterday in Kansas, we saw hail that was softball size here. That is not out of the question. Well, it's not the most likely situation. It's certainly a possibility. And again, supercell thunderstorms that could bring all the threats, all the hazards coming on in. Springfield into Missouri. Let's jump up to you. And by the way, both Springfields, Illinois and Missouri, have a risk today, but this is Missouri. And we've got thunderstorms for you just before the dinner hour. Joplin, Springfield, all the hazards come through here as well with that risk of damaging winds and hail. There is that tornado risk as well. It does look like the weather will improve for you after, I would say, 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then last stop, Indianapolis. The line of storms is on your doorstep to come through, maybe with some damaging winds or small hail. And then we get to the supercells. That comes through tonight, Alex, about 6 or 7 o'clock into the evening.
Yeah, only a long day.
Yet again, some of the biggest hail yesterday was around Kansas City. Always such an expensive situation with these big hailstorms. Alma, Kansas, we picked up the softball size hail, and you can see all the way to Liberty, Missouri, where we picked up the golf ball size hail. So a number of spots affected. And think about the power in these thunderstorms to even create this kind of hail. Softball size hail, 4-inch in size, it would take 100-mile-per-hour updraft to sustain that hail formation. And then just think about the down, too, because that hail will be falling. Gravity is at work here. We could see that hail falling maybe at a rate of 40, 50, 70 miles per hour or greater. And so this is where we saw the hail yesterday. This is where we're going to see it today. And now Oklahoma and Arkansas could see that big hail. Winter storm Kadir doesn't seem to be in a hurry as it continues to dump snow across the west. Feet of snow still to come for the Rockies.
Yeah, on top of what we've already seen, which is quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it out here piling up. It will continue through today, maybe even into the weekend.
Ooh, it's been a minute, though. We haven't had a big one in this part of the country in a while.
It's true. Winter storm Kadir forcing the closure of public schools and offices in Denver today.
Meteorologist Chris Bruin has an update on the falling snow and those travel conditions.
Right now, a severe storm threat is increasing for parts of the southern plains and the Midwest, with storms set to ramp up in the evening hours. Meteorologist Alex Wilson has some tips to keep you safe if you are on the road when a tornado threatens. We've been watching a line of thunderstorms out there, and earlier there were tornado warnings on it. There have not been for several hours, and even the severe thunderstorm warnings that were on that line have now been allowed to be dropped here. But we still have a couple of special weather statements here for these storms as they continue to track towards Indianapolis. Winds may be in excess of 50 miles per hour. We may have maybe half-inch hail, which that's not quite severe limits. But you don't want to be caught out in it, walking the dog or anything like that. Plus, you did see all that lightning, and so that in itself is a risk. Here comes that line of storms tracking towards Indianapolis. It's getting close here. We're about, 10, 20 minutes away from that blasting on through. It's moving right along 70, 74, and, as we continue to track this line of thunderstorms with it, you get some brief heavy rain that comes down, and then, you'll get a break behind it. And then we got to wait for the next round to come in later the afternoon and the evening. We are under a severe thunderstorm watch in Indianapolis. This goes until 4 o'clock this afternoon. It includes Fort Wayne. It includes Cincinnati as well. Again, we're tracking this line. No reason to think it won't hold together all the way to get to Cincinnati, too. So we'll be monitoring that. But once we see that move through, then we're going to be, I think, at the same time watching for new thunderstorms that will be developing here, especially in eastern Oklahoma, northwestern Arkansas, southern Missouri. That's an area that's most likely to see that storm threat today, with the risk of supercells that could bring large hail, damaging winds, all of the threats. And we've been watching the instability continue to actually grow. We started off the day right out of the gate this morning. The alarm went off and checked this map, and already we had a decent amount of instability, but that actually has been going up. We have the supercell risk out there, the supercell parameter on there. I'm going to keep an eye just in some spots like into Oklahoma and up into portions of Missouri and maybe Arkansas to start. But as we get to the afternoon and evening, we're going to see that expand. And we got a 5 on the Torcon, McAllister, Oklahoma, Little Rock in Arkansas, a 5 on the Torcon. Make sure you have a plan. Know where you would go in the case of a tornado. You want to have basement, best place, storm shelter. But other than that, interior room, putting as many walls and windows between you and the outside here if possible. Alex.
Well, how about some of the